Howdy folks, it's Coffee and Tools. Usually we're reviewing a nice brand new shiny tool. Unfortunately, today I thought we better jump on this thing. I'm not happy about it. I received a phone call a couple days ago. It involved a good friend that was using a table saw, and unfortunately he had serious kickback. But I want to explore the whole thing a little bit with you, and we'll go over some of the things that happened and just discuss in total, you know, how to prevent it. If I can get one of you guys to not have this accident, then this video was worth it. But yeah, let's get into what happened. So we're going to go over to the saw here in a second, and I'll just show you the report of what happened. But this guy was about 45-ish years old. His name was Matt, and he was a fairly accomplished professional in woodworking, because he built houses and he would rent them out and build another house and rent it out, that sort of thing. So that was his program. So he was a good tradesperson. He had a lot of knowledge and skill with the tools. He went out to California, was working on a house out there. Now, he was using a table saw, cutting down something. I don't have a length of board, but we can get an idea that it was longer than, say, about 3 or 4 feet. And so we don't know the length of board. With respect to the family, I will not give up the fellow's last name, but I knew him well in Statesboro, Georgia area when I was doing some work there. And so, you know, this is someone I personally knew, and we were, through my son was, you know, we had good connection with. Unfortunately, Matt was using the table saw, and he got kickback. And I think we need to go to the saw, and I'll show you what happened. Yeah, not pretty. Okay, we're over at the table saw. I selected, because Matt was working on a home in California, it could have been 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, 2x10. I don't have a lot of the specifics about the size of the lumber he was using. And you're going to say, again, I'm going to say lengthwise, it had to be a fairly long board, and longer would have been even worse. But I can only assume that he was using somewhere in that range. So I'm just going to use a 2x4 to demonstrate exactly what happened. Now, he was cutting on a table saw. This particular saw, right now, there's no riving knife in here, no guard, obviously. I've been using table saws for 52 years, but I do not recommend using a table saw like I do. Yeah, don't do that, you know. Apparently the kickback started with the board. Again, just board, because we don't know the size. But it came back this way, and it hit him in the gut first. Then there was enough force that the board came all the way up this way after it hit the gut, and it smacked him in the head. And at that point, I guess we all know, you had to be standing right here for those two things to happen. The gut punch, I think we've seen, well, I've seen some pretty nasty gut punches with, you know, so-called kickback this way, but also to come up and hit you in the head, he must have just stayed right there, and it would have happened so fast. Let's face it, it would have happened in a nanosecond, and there's no chance of getting out of the way. So there's a couple things. When I'm using my saw, that's probably the first thing. I don't stand here, you know, I just don't. I'm off to one side, or even sometimes, a lot of times, I like to be behind the fence even if I can. And that way, if something does happen, it's coming out of there. It can go and do its own thing. Go hit my tools or whatever, but it's not going to run into me. And I'm really surprised at the report, because obviously with a gut situation, he had to be right here to get this. And he had to be here with a fairly long board and enough force that the board came up and smacked him in the head. Yeah, comments in below how long a board do you think it was, because I'm assuming it was, because it was a home construction job, it could have been 8 feet. You know, it could have been a pretty long board, and longer, kicking back and coming up like that would have meant the force hitting the head, well, it just would have been just that much worse. But even the gut punch, it just, oh. Yeah, so to finish the Matt story part off, he didn't feel well, so he decided to take a couple of days off and just, you know, buzz around the house or whatever while he, at least theoretically, recovered from this injury. By about the 3rd day, he realized he wasn't getting any better and things were going south. So he went to seek medical attention, and went to, I believe it was, I guess it was an ER. But in the waiting room, the last thing they family passed on was that he got up, went to the reception desk and said, "I'm really not feeling good." And he fell down at the desk, and that was it. Apparently Matt had passed away right there. Yeah. So that was the end of him. At that point, I don't know whether it was the gut injury or the head. Most likely the head injury, maybe, you know, severe bleeding inside the brain or something. I don't know. We could all throw some theories around about that. But just very sad and very upsetting to hear that I think that I owned a saw that he may have had at one time. I'm pretty sure it had come through from him at one point, but yeah, just not good news. And to fact that kickback is a lot of injuries, but when someone passes away from kickback, that's a pretty serious injury. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I want to talk a little bit about positioning with the saw. As I stated, sometimes I stand off one side or the other because if I'm behind the fence, for example, I just wanted to show you that, is a lot of times if you have an offcut. Now an offcut generally does not do kickback, but yeah, they've been known to do it. And an offcut is usually, it's pretty loose, it's over here, it's bouncing around on the saw, you know, with the vibration, whatever, catches the blade, zing, you know, off it comes. If you have something with a fairly good sized chunk of offcut and it might injure you, then a lot of times, and I see this when I'm planning, I'll say, oh, you know what, I'm going to be over here on this side in case that stupid thing gets loose. I'll be over here, so it's going to miss me. You know, it'll just head into the shop and maybe go break something. So a lot of times this is where I'll be. Now, if I've got a very small offcut that even at high speed can't possibly injure me, then I will stand over here on this side of the saw. Certain cuts I have even been over there, but that's a rare position to be, is on this end of the saw. Generally, I like to mostly be over here off away from this, what do we call that? The shooting zone, the danger zone, and have the 2x4, 2x whatever it is going through the saw on this angle. And that way, if anything kicks back, it's going past me and it's heading in the shop. But if the offcut's bad, that side of the fence is a good place to hide, you know, in case something happens. Unfortunately, Matt, I don't know for what reason, whether it was the length of board that caused all this or whether it was short or long. I'm thinking two schools of thought. A short board coming up really fast, you know, might have been the head injury that would have been what took him. Or a long, I think if the board was like 8 feet long or something and hit him in the gut. I can't see the force coming up that badly to do this, but again, I'll ask for comments from you guys to see what you think. I'm thinking it was about around 4 foot long board or something to hit him. The family has been a little bit short with information, understandable. They're a little upset, you know, Matt's gone, not happy with that. So they're not really providing a lot of information over the exact circumstances that happened, other than I'm just giving you the details of what they gave me. You know, I'm just sharing it with you guys, and I really would like to see everybody not get hurt with a table saw. Table saw, when you're doing woodwork, is I've always said, it's the core of any woodworking shop, the table saw. Everything else seems like it's kind of secondary to the table saw, and I love my table saws. This is the 4th or 5th one I've had in here in the last couple years. So, and every one of them that comes in here always comes in, you know, no riving knife, no guard. Yeah, you know, that's the way they keep showing up at the door here. And I set them up and I try to get them fixed or whatever. And this one here is right now is my favorite saw, just because it's all cast iron. She's a beast. But also with these big heavy cast iron saws like this one, and this is why I don't like job saws. Job saws seem like they have a lot of vibration, and again, your offcut, if it sits there and vibrates around, hits the blade, zing, you know, comes off, something like that. This one doesn't vibrate. It's just the saw weighs, I guess, close to, well, almost a couple hundred pounds altogether. It takes 3 men to move this thing. It's on wheels, you know, and it's so smooth with the wood going through, it just feels really safe. It feels better. But there's no safety with these saws. If you're going to stand right here, it's kind of like you're just waiting for your day. And I am going to dedicate the show today to the memory of Matt. Again, like I said, it's a loss for me, and it was pretty sad to get the phone call and hear that this had happened to him. Just something that I don't want you guys to ever hopefully none of you guys ever have this kind of a weird accident with a saw. It's just so preventable. You know, yeah, there's the earphones, the goggles for your eyes and things, but also where you stand. You know, don't make yourself the target. You know, it's a sad thing to hear that this happened to Matt. And like I said, there's a lot of variables to the story. As far as I wish I had more detail to give you guys, I just don't have it because the family's not doesn't really want to discuss it in length. Obviously, you know, why would they? And the table saw is #1 for accidents. That's through ER, statistics and health, and you know, other issues. There is one other thing that does happen around a shop, and I thought maybe we'll throw that one out there too. There was a study done years ago by an International Safety Prevention Association, I believe it was, and they found that 85%, that's a big number, of the accidents occurred in the industry or in the shop environments. What started the accident that day, you know, was Fred or whoever came in and maybe did something simple as just something even small, like put his coffee down in a different spot than he ever usually does, or had something, a necktie that he never wears, whatever, in front of a lathe. That would be a pretty one. The thing is that something was done different that day that was away from routine. Now, I don't know if table saws can ever be set up for, say, routine, but they said 85% of the accidents, that's what led to the accident, was something, just something even minor. You know, it could be something as simple as a different person came in and talked to that person before they went to work that day and they got hurt, whatever. But the study showed that. So, you know, if something is done different than normal, you see something out of place that's not normal, sometimes just stop and think and go, oh, wait a minute, this could bring something else on. You know, that may save a few butts out there. You know, it's just that it's crazy. But when you hear 85%, it's like, that's a high statistic. And this is, like I say, unfortunately, #1. The lowest report, and again, I'm going to ask for comments on this one. Lowest reported power tool for injuries is the one I don't like, is the jigsaw. I try never to use my jigsaw, but apparently there's almost virtually no reports. And I'm thinking that the reason is that they don't end up at the ER, they don't end up in medical services. Maybe you put a Band-Aid on your finger where you cut yourself or something, and we just don't hear about it. So statistically, it doesn't happen. So I would love it if you know of you or a friend or a person, whatever, got hurt with a jigsaw. I'd love to see a comment on that at least, just so we can take a look and just say, yeah, you know, that it happened. You know, I don't know if I don't want to hear all about the blood, the details or something, but and you know, maybe the statistics are correct, but I have a feeling it's that jigsaws at least hurt people, but they probably don't get hurt bad enough to go to, say, seek medical help. Where this thing here, if it hurts you, you could be in some serious trouble. And if you do get hurt with kickback or something, I would at least ask you to, please consider go seeing a doctor or an ER or something, because there is a good chance you may have, bleeding inside or something that you don't know about in this case. And yeah, it's just not worth it, at that point. Hey, well, for good or bad, you can tell this show was not planned today, not like the normal plan. And so hopefully we'll get back on track on Monday. We'll have some new goodies to look at and new reviews on new tools and new emerging technologies. Thank you so much for looking in on us today at Coffee and Tools. Please like, share, subscribe, and ring the notice bell. And please be good, be kind to everybody. I'm out of here. Over and out.